Your warning was the quiet arithmetic of preparation, and they never saw it until it was too late. While they lived as gamblers, chasing risks with no ledger, you wrote down what they ignored. Every choice was weighed, every step accounted for, every exit considered. To them, caution looked like weakness, but to you, it was currency. They thought you were slow, hesitant, distracted. Yet what you were doing was building equations in silence, measuring not just what could be gained, but what might cost you everything. That arithmetic protected you from collapse. It was not dramatic, not loud, but it was undeniable. When storms came, you didn't stumble into chaos. You walked through it with a rhythm already rehearsed. And that rhythm itself became your warning. It said that, unlike them, you had been doing the math while they were still gambling with illusions. They underestimated how much strength lies in anticipation. They craved immediacy, wanted to win in the moment, wanted to show everyone they could outshine you with spontaneity. Yet spontaneity without structure is collapse waiting to happen. Your preparation turned into their frustration because it meant you were never as vulnerable as they hoped. They tried to bait you into reckless fights, but you had already calculated the cost and refused the invitation. They tried to shame you into rushing decisions, but you had already rehearsed patience so deeply that silence became your ally. The arithmetic of preparation is cruel for those who love chaos because it denies them an opponent who plays recklessly. You don't step into battles unless the ground has already been studied. And when you move, the precision makes it feel inevitable. That inevitability is why they began to fear you. In relationships, this arithmetic saved you from chains others willingly wear. They believed devotion meant surrender, that love meant gambling your entire self into another's hands. But you wrote it differently. You cared deeply, but you never gave away the core of yourself. You anticipated betrayals, not because you were paranoid, but because you paid attention. You prepared boundaries before manipulation could sneak in. You measured consistency instead of promises, and when the numbers didn't align, you walked away. That preparation was your warning to anyone who thought they could break you. You were not cruel. You were ready. And readiness is a form of strength most people never learn. To them, leaving is collapse. To you, leaving is arithmetic. It is survival written in advance. Friendships revealed the same pattern. They thought you would stay no matter the weight of their envy, no matter the poison of their betrayal. They thought loyalty was blind. But you had already calculated what true loyalty required. You knew the cost of staying where energy was drained, where support was uneven, where trust was fractured. You wrote your equation in silence, and when the answer was subtraction, you left. They called you cold, but they knew deep down it was justice. You gave what you measured, and when they gave less, the equation dissolved. That quiet arithmetic of preparation reminded them that loyalty without balance is slavery, and you refused to be a slave to their expectations. At work, preparation separated you from the desperate. They relied on improvisation, hoping to appear clever in chaos. You built habits that prevented collapse. They crammed before deadlines, while you had already rehearsed the outcome weeks earlier. They tried to pressure you into panic, but your arithmetic had already made room for contingencies. They thought dominance meant being loud in meetings, but your warning was your results. Results do not need to shout. Results carry weight in silence. Your preparation was not glamorous, but it was undefeated. That arithmetic turned into armor, protecting you from sabotage, because every possible strike had already been accounted for. Their frustration grew not because you fought harder, but because you didn't need to. The psychology of preparation unsettles people addicted to shortcuts. They are trained by instant gratification, by the false promise that speed matters more than depth. But the mind trained in arithmetic knows better. You rewired yourself to value repetition, to honor consistency, to trust structure. This trained your nervous system to respond calmly when others crumbled. Preparation lowers fear because it teaches your brain there is nothing unknown, only uncalculated. That calmness looks like sorcery to the untrained, but it is simply math. It is the cruel clarity of someone who spent years turning chaos into equations. And when they meet you, they panic because they know they cannot fake what you built. Enemies despise this arithmetic most of all. They counted on unpredictability, on surprise, on catching you exposed. But exposure cannot harm someone who has already calculated the outcome of exposure. They thought secrets would destroy you. You had already rehearsed life without secrets. They thought betrayal would paralyze you. You had already prepared for departure. They thought failure would humiliate you. You had already incorporated failure into your formula for growth. Every move they made landed in an equation you had already solved. That was the real warning. You do not collapse because you already prepared for collapse. They were not fighting you. They were fighting inevitability. The cruel elegance of arithmetic is that it leaves no waste. You don't have to argue loudly, don't have to prove endlessly, don't have to explain yourself to doubters. The preparation itself is proof. Your life becomes a sum of intentional decisions. And when people witness that, they cannot ignore the warning written into your presence. They sense the calculations behind your calm, the rehearsals behind your silence, the strategy behind your patience. It unsettles them because it forces them to see their own lack of preparation. They despise you because you remind them of what they never built. Even in love, even in trust, even in moments of vulnerability, your arithmetic still protects you. It doesn't make you cold. It makes you clear. You know how much to give without losing yourself. You know when presence is investment and when it is waste. You know when forgiveness repairs and when it only resets the cycle of harm. That clarity means no one can own you. They may want your loyalty, your time, your energy, but they cannot coerce it. Your preparation ensures that all of it is chosen, never stolen. That choice itself is a warning, the warning that you cannot be manipulated by desperation disguised as devotion. They expect you to flinch, to panic, to crack when pressure arrives, because that is what most people do. They believe stress exposes weakness, that fear always forces confession, that discomfort eventually bends the strongest spine. Their entire playbook depends on you folding under weight. They wait for the twitch in your eye, the shake in your hand, the crack in your voice that will confirm they have leverage. But you never give it to them. You let pressure build without breaking. You let silence stretch without filling it. You let storms rage without letting them touch your core. That composure is what terrifies them most. Pressure was supposed to reveal you. Instead, it revealed them. They count on the human craving for release. Most people under strain rush to offload. Words slip out, emotions spill, mistakes multiply. That is the moment manipulators feed on, the moment they pounce and record and remind. You denied them that feast. You chose to hold still when everything inside screamed for reaction. You chose control over comfort. That choice unsettles them because it reveals how little they understand you. They thought you were predictable like everyone else, but your discipline makes you unreadable. The longer you resist cracking, the louder their panic grows because their plan relied on your collapse, and without it, they collapse instead. In relationships, pressure comes dressed as ultimatums, tests, silent treatments meant to make you fold. They push buttons hoping to provoke a reaction that proves control. Yet your silence does not break, your calm does not shatter, and your detachment unsettles them. You no longer fight every accusation, no longer chase every withdrawal of affection, no longer scramble to prove what doesn't need proving. That refusal to flinch under emotional pressure terrifies them. They realize they cannot bait you into their spirals anymore. You became immune, not by being heartless, but by mastering your own pulse. You know love without respect is manipulation, and no pressure will make you mistake one for the other. Friendships often test in subtler ways. Gossip, exclusion. The quiet attempts to see if you'll beg for belonging. Those are pressure points too. Many break under them, desperate to defend their name or explain their absence. You refuse. You let people talk. You let rumors breathe and die. That composure leaves them rattled because it exposes their own fragility. They need validation to survive. You don't. They need constant reassurance of loyalty. You give loyalty only when it is deserved, not when it is demanded. By not cracking under social pressure, you become something they cannot categorize. They can't control what they can't corner, and you have become impossible to corner. Workplaces amplify pressure into spectacle. Deadlines shorten, supervisors raise voices, politics squeeze until people crumble. They expected you to panic, to fold into mistakes, to join the scramble. Instead, you adjusted your rhythm. You did not move faster, you moved sharper. Pressure became your sharpening stone, not your downfall. The calm way you navigate crisis unsettles colleagues because it denies them superiority. They thrive in chaos, hoping you will drown with them. Yet, when you continue to deliver without drama, their strategies die. They mistake your calm for arrogance, but in truth it is survival. Your refusal to flinch turns pressure into proof of strength, rather than exposure of weakness. Psychology explains why this terrifies them. Human behavior under stress is usually predictable: fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. They expect you to fall into one of those categories so they can adapt accordingly. But you rewired yourself. You chose discipline over instinct. You trained your mind to slow down when others speed up, to think clearly when others drown in noise. That training creates a fifth response: calm authority. They cannot fight what they cannot predict, and your unpredictable composure becomes your weapon. Their greatest fear is realizing that the pressure they relied on to control you is the same force that strengthened you. Enemies in particular despise your refusal to crack. They build their plots on the assumption that pressure will expose you. They think betrayal, rumor, or even manufactured crises will force you into mistakes. Yet every attempt lands on stone. You have already rehearsed collapse in private, already accepted your own flaws, already faced the shadows they wanted to weaponize. Pressure cannot break what has already been rebuilt stronger. They look for fractures and find steel. That revelation horrifies them because it means they cannot own you, cannot silence you, cannot destabilize you. Their failure becomes public, while your silence becomes legendary. The cruel lesson is that pressure doesn't create weakness. It reveals training. You trained while they performed. You practiced while they postured. You built patience while they built illusions. That is why, under strain, they fracture while you remain. The very moments they designed to humiliate you end up exposing them instead. They shout, they scramble, they overreact, and in doing so, they write their own downfall. You do not need to fight loudly. You only need to stand quietly, and pressure will write the story for you. A story where your calm is remembered and their panic is replayed endlessly. In love, in work, in conflict, the pattern repeats. They expect flinching, panic, collapse, because they see the world through their own fragility. You replaced fragility with preparation. You mastered the art of breathing under fire. You don't deny fear. You use it as a cue to stay sharper. That discipline makes you untouchable in ways they cannot admit. They hate you for it, but they also respect you, because respect is the natural response to strength that cannot be broken.